Okay, any ideas?
I don't know, maybe 13 means it's your experience of working as a tutor.
Wonderful, correct. Great, it's correct. Yes, I've been teaching English for 13 years. Good guess. What about 2000?
Um, I'm not sure, maybe it's a year when you enter to, I don't know, university.
Well, good guess, but it's not true. I have spent 2,000 kilometers coming from Taiwan, which is in another country, coming to
Oh,
Rostov. Okay.
oh,
Yes,
oh,
2,000
that's
kilometers
interesting.
from my hometown to Rostov-on-Don. What about 28?
Is it your age? No.
Uh, I'm a bit older than that.
28, I don't know.
Uh, Tanya, do you have any ideas? What do you think 28 refers to? Okay, you can hear us, I suppose. So I have got 28 cousins. I decided to
Really?
share it with you, yes, because that's just something unusual for Russian people. I've got too many cousins, you know. So
That's really unusual.
it is. 2017. What does it refer to?
Um, Maybe you started to work in language link.
It's close, but that's 2019. You know, I came from India
Uh-huh.
2019. 2017 is the year when I did my CELTA. Okay, I got my
Ah,
CELTA in 2017. Okay, good. Now, you've got 1 minute to think of at least three numbers, you know, related to your life, and but don't write anything. Okay, just think. You have got 1 minute. Okay, and then we will guess.
so I should name 3 dates, right?
Yes, yes.
Uh-huh. Or numbers.
You've got 1 minute. Don't write
Uh-huh.
any explanations, just numbers.
Uh-huh.
How much time do you have?
About a minute.
Very good.
Should I write?
You can type in the chat box.
Uh-huh.
Can you do the same thing, please? You can type in the chat box. Okay, good. Uh, Tanya, can you see the chat box? Can you guess what 24 refers to?
Maybe 24, maybe it's set on a stage.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, all right.
It's easy.
So you're 24 years old. 2021, I suppose you started teaching in 2021.
Yes, I started to work as an English teacher last year.
Oh, good. That's cool. And 2015, Tanya, what do you think?
Probably it's the year when Adana entered the university.
Is that true?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I finished my school and I entered the university.
Okay. All right. So, Tanya, would you like to share your ideas with us?
If I write the same ideas, you will guess it very easily.
Okay, all right. So the thing is that this is one of the activities you can do in your classes, especially the first session when your students don't really know you. Okay, instead of saying, hello, my name is this, I've been teaching English for many years, I did this, that, I have too many siblings, blah, 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 blah. You can simply write some words on the board and ask students to guess what these numbers refer to. Or you can write not just numbers, you can write, for example, chicken, for example, sushi, wrap, pop, and they can guess if you like or you hate, this food. So the first session, I think it's very important to make a good impression. And again, this is just an activity of student-centered classroom. Instead of talking too much, you can, minimize teacher talking time and ask students to speak more. Okay. So, um, any questions about this part? Any questions you want to ask me, maybe?
Oh, that's interesting and easy.
All right, good. So, as I previously mentioned, today we are going to talk about classroom management. I'll give you 2 minutes, and I want you to think what classroom management is. I mean, what is included in classroom management? When it comes to classroom management, what is it included in? For example, one of them is teacher talking time and students talking time. Okay, you have got 2 minutes. You can either type in the chat box, write on a piece of paper. But nobody already. Okay, good. So, share your ideas with me. What is included in classroom management?
Um, First, as you said, teaching speaking time and student speaking time.
Yes, student talking time.
Also,
Yes.
student talking time. Yes.
Mhm.
The second one is maybe time planning.
Very good. Mhm. Yeah, time
And
management. Very good.
classroom language maybe.
Good, great. Tanya, you wrote make the discipline. Very good. Uh-huh. Okay, good. So here we have some more ideas. So we have timing, as you mentioned, Eliana, thank you. Instruction, which is also very important, how to give a clear instruction. Time management, thank you, Tanya. Then the next one is cooperation between students, teacher, student, pace of the lesson, how fast or slow is the pace, interaction patterns, whether they should work in pairs, in groups, individually, uh, a rapport, how to establish a good rapport with your students. For example, if I don't know, you enter the class and one of the students says he's ill. So is it a good idea to ignore? Of course, we say, oh, sorry to hear that. So it's very important to show emotion and to establish a good rapport with students. Make stability, how to give feedback. Uh, we will discuss it, of course, a couple of sessions later. Learner autonomy, and that's it. So we will talk about some of these today, especially how to give instruction, interaction patterns, and you know, rapport. Now, anything you want to add, maybe? Okay.
No.
Good, great. So when it comes to classroom management, it's not just, for example, giving instruction. There are lots of things, which a teacher should take into consideration when planning a lesson. Okay, especially giving instructions, as we discussed earlier, it's very important. Somebody joining us, uh, Irina. Okay, that's great. All right. So, Irina, hi. My name is Mustafa. It's good to see you. You're talking about, I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me? Irina, hi. All right, good. So, I want you to think about an experience, whether good or bad, you had in your class. And you have got 1 minute to think, either a good experience or a bad experience, you faced with students, behavior, attention, relationship, and so on. Think about it for a minute, then we will share ideas with each other. What went wrong? What was the problem?
A bad classroom experience, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
you can, talk about a good classroom experience as well if you want. If nothing crosses your mind. Okay, any ideas?
Sometimes I have such a bad experience. For example, when I have lessons with my students who are classmates, and they are not shy, and that is why they talk too much with each other. And sometimes it's difficult to uh, attract their attention.
That's a good point, actually. In the next two slides, we will talk about gathering students' attention. Okay, good. So basically, the problem is that they're kind of shy. Is that right? So especially when they sit next to each other. Okay, all right. I think in this case, it's very important if there are 4, 5, 6, 7 students, is to change their seats. Okay, so that they don't sit next to each other all the time. I mean, to change this interaction pattern. Okay, if two shy students sit next to each other all the time, well, they'll never speak. All right. Tatiana, what about you? Have you had any nasty, bad experiences?
Well, I can say about the same bad experiences, especially when I was young. It was rather difficult to draw pupil to test.
Okay. All right. Irina, can you hear me? All right. So we all actually had the experience of having students, especially when you work with young learners. You may have some problems of discipline, I don't know, attention, behavior, and so on. The problem is that there are some strategies we can do, of course, in order to gather students' attention. And also, of course, it's very important to be able to give good instructions in order to gather the attention. Now, I'm going to show you a picture here. Uh, as you see, does everyone understand? Yes. Moving on then. What do you think is the problem with this question? Do you think it's a good idea when a teacher asks, does everyone understand? Or is it clear? Do you think that's a good question to ask students?
Mm, I'm not sure, but why not? I think it's
The problem is that, okay, so you think that this is a good question, but the problem is that many of us had this experience, especially back in school, okay, that the teacher asked us, does everybody understand? And they were too shy, or not really confident to say, no, I don't understand. This is so hard, okay? So that's why you've got to avoid asking such question, okay? Instead, you've got to have some, I don't know, let's say instruction checking questions or concept checking questions to make sure. For example, if you're teaching the word, as an example, shy, okay, or brave, okay. So you've got to make sure if the student, understands or not. Is it good or bad? Is it positive or negative? Okay. So in this case, you can make sure if they understand or not, because not all students are brave enough, confident enough to say, no, I don't know. Okay.
mhm,
So next time when you teach, I don't know, grammar, vocab, or even if you want to check instruction, avoid asking such a question. Or even when you teach vocab, if you want to convey meaning. Again, it's not a good idea to say, does anyone know what it means? Do you know what sensitive means? Okay, because basically they don't know. Okay, and it's just a bit difficult, especially for lower levels. Okay, they cannot explain, and they start, even if they know, they start saying the translation. Okay,
mhm, mhm.
so um, let's talk together about, as we discussed. I mean, Eliona mentioned something about gathering students' attention. Do you know any strategies, any tips, okay, to gather students' attention grabbers? For example, you enter the class and you see that everybody is talking together, okay, like students are talking together. How do you usually gather their attention? Or after pair work, group work, you can type in the chat box, or you can unmute your mic and share your ideas.
I just say, look at me, and so on.
Okay, so everybody look at me. Uh-huh, uh-huh. That could be used actually as a strategy, okay? But uh, what you usually do, for example, I mean, what I usually do in my classes is to raise my voice. Thank you. Okay, so with clapping, okay, in order to gather students' attention. Because not long ago, I was observing the class, and well, the teacher had more or less monotonous intonation. Okay, so it's very important sometimes to raise your voice, have falling intonation, you know, low, high, in order to gather their attention. The other one is standing up. Well, for example, if students are having pair work, you can stand up in order to gather their attention. Okay, it can be again with clapping. Okay. Then one of my favorite things, it always works. When you clap, of course, especially with young learners, so you can simply have their attention. And bell, I've got actually one in my class most of the time. for young learners, juniors and pre-juniors and teens. It will work. Well, of course, you can use it for adults as well, but it's usually a good idea, to use it with young learners. Uh, Next one is snapping fingers. If you know how to do that, of course, if you maybe in some countries it's not a good idea to snap fingers, but you've got to do it loudly. Okay. uh, Play music. It can be used as well. Well, I don't do it very often, to be honest with you. And the one which might sound a bit maybe strange, but it works. It's like a miracle, is to keep silent. When you go to class, students are talking together, you sit on the chair or standing up, no difference. And you don't say anything. And you look at students, and believe it or not, they keep silent. So you can simply gather their attention. So, hi everyone, how are you today? So, first 5 seconds, maximum 10 seconds, and then you can gather the attention. Which of these, do you have any other ideas? Maybe you can share with me. What other strategies you use?
I don't have any more ideas. I also thought about keeping silent.
Mhm, mhm. It works, doesn't it?
How to use playing music?
It depends actually on the age of students. Okay, for example, with teens, it works well. Okay, so you can have, for example, a kind of music with speaker. Okay, just play the first 5 seconds. Okay, and everybody starts listening, and then you pause. Now I have your attention, and some of them say, "Let's listen to music. Let's listen to music, please." Okay, so it's an interesting way, but I don't. Again, I told you before that I don't do it very often. Okay, keeping silent is my favorite one, and the spell again it varies from students, classes to classes, I can say. All right. So any questions here? No. Good. Now, let's move on, talking about grading the language. When you enter the class, and for example, if you're teaching the group of A2, do you think it's a good idea to ask your students, instead of saying, "How are you today?" to say, "How have you been?" or "How's it going?"
No, it's too difficult for them.
Exactly. All right. So it's really difficult. So basically, it's very important to grade your language depending on the student's level. Okay. I'll send you a link in the chat box, and I want you to open it. Just a sec. So you have 2 minutes to group the pieces of advice into good or potentially bad. Okay. Uh, Chat box, please. How much time do you have?
I can see the link.
How much time do you have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Good advice or potentially bad advice? Type in the chat box when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Irina, you still can't hear me, yes? Now, check your answers, the same or different. Elena, correct? Are they the same or different? Your answers. Can you see my screen? Yes?
Ah, yes, now I can see.
Okay, okay. So
Uh-huh.
you can check if they're the same or different.
Uh-huh. The same.
Okay, good. Tanya, are your answers the same or different? Any questions? All right. So the thing is that when we give instruction, I mean, it's very important to grade your language. Okay. Uh, Here, as you can see, pronounce each word slowly or deliberately. It's not very necessary to pronounce every word very, very slowly for learners to understand. Okay, because you've got to speak at a natural speed. Okay, because it's good for their, listening practice as well. Now, I want you to, so that's a mistake, okay? So maybe some teachers do that because they have very weak students, but it's not a good idea. This is just a bad piece of advice. And one more thing here, it, I saw it actually once when I was observing, a class that the teacher didn't use, articles. And when I asked, she was like, okay, I thought that maybe it's much easier, for students to understand. But never do that, okay? It's not a good idea to, give wrong, make wrong sentences, okay? So your students, well, have to understand the instruction, okay? You may change some words, but do not miss out small words such as auxiliaries, I don't know, prepositions, and so on. And of course, it's very important when you give instruction, when you want to grade your language, use your body language, facial expressions, and so on. For example, if you want to use the word, I don't know, little, you can show it like that, okay? This is big, you know how to do that. So gestures and facial expressions are very important as well. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay. We have got 8 sentences here. Each has a problem with grading language. Okay. I'll give you 3 minutes to think, and after that, we will share the ideas with each other. What are the problems, okay, in each sentence? These are for pre-intermediate learners. Okay. How much time do you have?
3 minutes.
Okay, good. And what level are these sentences for?
Pre-intermediate.
Okay, all right. you're ready, tell me.
I'm ready.
Okay, all right. So, first one, what do you think is the problem?
Sure, should we use conditional sentences? We just can say, imagine the moment that you are a policeman.
Mhm, mhm. Is it necessary to use the moment? Or you can simply say, you're a policeman. That's it.
Yes, we can.
Or imagine policeman, okay? You don't really need to use the word moment because this is too hypothetical, okay?
Mhm,
Instead, we can simply say, you're a policeman.
mhm.
All right. What about the second one? Jot down some ideas.
Jot down, it's too difficult.
Exactly. So colloquial,
Mhm,
and phrasal verbs.
mhm.
So instead, we can say,
Um,
well,
Give me
instead
some
of
ideas.
instead of jot down, you can write. You can say write some ideas.
Mhm,
Write down some
mhm.
ideas. Okay. All right. And like one more example. Not long ago, I was observing a class. It was A2, and when the teacher wanted to give instruction, she used think of instead of think of, come up with some ideas. Okay, so again, this phrasal verb come up with instead of think
Mhm.
of. Okay, so you've got to use very simple language. You don't need to say jot down or come up with some ideas. So number two is too difficult and colloquial. Number three.
I'm not sure about the beginning. Could you possibly talk?
Excellent, very good. This is too formal. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. How can we change it?
Oh, talk to the person sitting on your right.
Yes. Or you don't need to say sitting also. Talk to the person
Uh-huh.
on your left. Talk to the person
Mhm.
on your right. Okay.
Mhm.
So it should be as simple as possible. Number four.
Maybe it's too long.
Yes. Uh-huh. Okay. Too long. Correct. Uh-huh. Okay. It contains too much information. Okay. So the instructions should be short.
It's too detailed.
Yes, exactly. So sometimes, if you notice that your instructions are too long, so you can break down into several parts. Okay, first do this, then this. Okay, or you can
Mhm.
ask them to do one part, and after that, well, they can continue with the second part, the third part. So break down into several parts. Number five, Tanya, would you like to share your idea? What do you think is the problem?
Maybe the wrong word order.
One word order. Alona, what do you think?
I think again the beginning, having made your notes, it's too difficult. We just can say when you will made your notes.
Yes, exactly. Because this is an example of participle clause, okay, having made your notes, okay? And basically when you teach or when you give instruction, again, I told you, very simple. Having made your notes is too difficult for learners. Complex grammar, okay,
Mhm.
is the problem here. Number six, Irina, if you can hear me, it would be great if you share your idea. Okay, she can hear Alona.
I don't know about these sentences. It sounds strange, but I can't say the
Yeah.
reason.
Exactly. So the problem is that it's unnatural. Okay,
Mhm.
it sounds strange. You're right. Number seven.
I think there are too many words like beautifully, randomly, fascinating.
Yeah, the teacher is too I don't know, descriptive, I can say. So exaggerating is fantastic, beautifully illustrated. Okay, so you don't really need to use adjectives to describe it. So it's too descriptive. And the last one,
Me?
yes, please.
I think there are two difficult vocabulary like determine, features, so discourse.
Utterance, yes. Okay, good, exactly. So too much complex, we call it jargon. Okay, so it's very difficult for learners to know the words. For example, utterance, determine, discourse, and so on. So next time when you want to, I don't know, teach, it's very, very important to grade your language depending on the level of the students. Okay. Now, let's move on if you don't have any questions here. I want you to look at this example of giving instruction, okay, and tell me what the problem is with this instruction. What is the problem?
First
Is it
is
an example of instruction? Mhm.
it's too long, and I have think that there is no structure. Like first open your books on page 87, and then next instructions.
Exactly. So, first of all, it's too wordy, as we say. Okay, the instruction is too wordy. There are some words which are difficult again to have a go as an example. Okay, mingle. I saw it somewhere here. Mingle around. See, so it's kind of difficult for students. First of all, as you said, it's too long. It should be broken down into several parts. And some words here are difficult. And as you see, this student here is confused, totally confused. Okay. All right. Talking about instruction, we have a strategy. I think you saw the first one, KISS strategy. Okay. Do you know what KISS? What do they stand for? What is KISS strategy? When you give instruction.
No, I have never heard about this.
Tanya, any ideas? You know what KISS strategy is?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So you have the first one, which is keep. The second one is instructions, short and simple. Okay. So when you give instructions, it should be as short as and simple as possible. Okay. So remember, next time when you want to give instruction, KISS strategy. Okay, keep instructions short and simple. There is one more actually I wanted to share with you, which is ICQ here. Do you know what it stands for? Sorry, ICQs.
No.
Okay, so they have two words. I think you must necessarily know. The first one is ICQ, which stands for, as you see, instruction checking questions. Okay, and we have CCQ. We'll discuss it actually later when it comes to vocabulary or grammar. This is concept checking questions. Okay, so instruction checking questions and concept checking questions. Today, we will talk a little bit about ICQs, which are very, very important when you give instructions. I don't know if you noticed or not, several times I asked you how much time you have. Are you going to work in pairs or individually? So these are the examples of instruction checking questions to make sure if students understand what they should do or not. Okay. Well, before the planning a lesson, when you're writing your lesson plan, I think it's very important to come up with some instruction checking questions for each activity. Uh, as an example, if you have got a gap fill task, as you see here, we have how many words are there? Then, you know, you ask students, how many words are there? Students say 2, okay, 3. And keep in mind that it should be very short. I mean, the answer should be 1 or 2 words. Okay, so it shouldn't be a sentence. Another example, reading for gist. Are you going to try and understand every word? So students say, no, main idea. Okay. Find somebody, you know, this is an activity, I will talk about it a bit later. Find somebody who, for example, can you sit down or do you have to move? Students say, move, okay? Or listening activities, how many people are you going to hear? Then they say 5. If, as for interaction patterns, group work or pair work, are you going to work in a group of 3 or 4? They would say 4. Are you going to work in pairs or individually? Yes. And remember that, you know, after this part, when you give instruction, of course, giving time is very important. Okay. For example, how much time do you have to read? Because if you ask students, okay, now read this reading, and okay, this is okay, how much time? Okay, can I read it, for example, for an hour, or I have 5 minutes? So time limitation after each activity. Okay, especially when it comes to you know, reading, when it comes to writing, because for listening, well, there's no time limitation. Okay. So should ICQs be short or long? The answers.
Short answers.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Have you ever asked your students instruction checking questions?
Can you repeat, please?
Have you ever or do you ever ask your students ICQs? Do you check if they understand the task, the instruction?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
But there are some interesting ideas I didn't use.
All right. So remember that, for example, for lower levels, it's very important to check. But for upper levels, for example, if you're teaching a group of, I don't know, advanced students or upper intermediate, it is not really necessary to ask them, for example, are you going to work in pairs or individually? Because their level is good enough, okay? They understand. So usually for lower levels, okay? But for time limitation, yes, you can ask. All right. Now, I want you to look at the sentences here. There are 8 techniques you can use when you give instructions. Number 1 to number 8, one word in each sentence has been removed, but the first 2 letters have been written down. You have got 2 minutes, okay? 2 minutes to complete number 1 to number 8. You can type in the chat box, or you can write on a piece of paper and share it. How much time do you have?
2 minutes.
Okay. Can you type in the chat box?
Oh,
Can you type in the chat box?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Are you ready?
Um, I'm not sure about one of them, but
Okay. Which one?
5.
5. Okay. So, okay. Does anybody know the answer for number 5? Tanya, do you know the answer?
No, it's difficult.
All right, good. So let's check. Uh, it's well, basically when you give instruction, we have BOC, which is book on the chest. Okay, and this chesting technique is very important when you give instruction. I've noticed that sometimes when teachers want to give instruction, they ask students to open the book, page 78. Okay, exercise 1 or exercise 3. It's kind of difficult for especially lower level students to find where exercise 3 is. That's why whenever you want to give instruction, it's very important to have the book on your chest, okay, and show with your finger where which activity, you know. It's much easier for them. And of course, first you gather students' attention. Now look at me, okay. And then, you show with your finger. Exercise 3, page 87. You can write the page number, for example, on the board if you think they are very bad at numbers. They don't know what, I don't know, 158 is. So basically, this chesting technique is important. Have the book on your chest all the time when you want to give instruction. And we talked about number 2 and number 3, that this KISS strategy. It should be short and simple. And when the instruction is too long, you break them into several parts to discuss it as well. Demonstrate. If you think the activity is kind of difficult for students, you can do the first one yourself. Okay? You can model the first one yourself. Or if you have strong students, you can simply ask one of your students to do the first one, okay? So sometimes if the instruction is not that simple, you can do it yourself or one of the students. Just show facial expressions we discussed. And number 7, which is very important, first instructions, then handouts. I've noticed many different times while observing classes that when they have handouts, they usually give the handout first and then they start the instruction. What do you think is the problem? Why shouldn't we do that?
Because we are starting to look through the materials.
Yeah, as soon as you give your students the handouts, they won't listen to you anymore. Okay, they start looking at the activities. Okay, that's why you've got to say, for example, exercise 1, you should do blah 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 blah. You should do this and that. You should match A and B together, for example. So first you give instructions and then handouts. And it's very important to ask students, before you have finished. They shouldn't do that. Okay, first you do the instruction, done. Now you can start. Is it clear? Any questions you have there?
Oh, it's clear.
Okay, all right, good. So talking about this activity cycle, I'll send you a link. Uh, Okay, so I'll send you a link in the chat box and I want you to put the steps of the presentation stage in the activity 1 to 6 in its typical order, okay? And you have 2 minutes for that. Can you see it in the chat box? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. You're ready. Tell me or type in the chat box.
I'm ready.
Okay, let's check the answers. Okay, check your answers. If they're the same or different.
The same.
Okay, all right. So next time when you want to give instruction, you should follow these steps. Okay. Uh, let's move on if you don't have any questions and talk about the interaction patterns and seating arrangement. So normally when you're talking about this seating arrangement, you may ask students to work in pairs. You may ask your students to work in a group of 3, 4. And it varies from class to class depending on the size of the class, of course. Okay, so when you change these sitting arrangement, it's very important to ensure that there is personal space, this elbow room, as we say. And it's also important that you ask students to stand up, to go around, to change their partners, and also it must be very easy for you to monitor them. Okay. Well, we'll talk about monitoring a bit later, but depending on the sitting arrangement, sometimes it's somehow difficult for a teacher to monitor students. So now, and of course, it should be. I mean, the board should be visible for students as well. Uh, 2 weeks ago, I remember I want to share this story with you that I was observing the class, and the students were sitting around the table, and the board was behind one of the students, and it was very difficult, for students. Apparently, there was a problem with one of the tables, the teacher said, but you've got to make sure the board is visible all the time for students if you want to teach something on the board, of course. When there's pair work, well, it's not needed. Uh, a question. If you want to change students' seat, okay, what do you usually do? What strategies do you use? Firstly, is it important to change student seats from time to time?
Um, I think yes, it's important. First, we have to we should change the partners, and sometimes it's necessary um, to change the seats because some I don't know, weaker students need more attention than others.
Exactly, exactly. So, yes, you're absolutely right that the sitting arrangement should be changed, especially when you're teaching young learners, okay, also teens. Uh, why? Because students can learn something from each other, okay? And if you see, for example, for 90 minutes, you will definitely get bored. That's why you need to stand up from time to time to change your partners. And the thing that you mentioned in the beginning of the session, remember that two shy students sitting next to each other and they don't interact with each other after, I don't know, maybe a minute. I'm ready, we are ready, okay, but if you change their seats, it will make a big difference, okay. Sometimes weak students with each other, sometimes strong students, sometimes weak and strong, okay. So it makes a great difference, I believe. And when learners can cooperate, collaborate with each other, is also important. But we've got to do it tactfully to avoid confusion and chaos in the class, especially when you have 10, 15 students in the class. We've got to know how to do that uh, tactfully, I mean. So, and this interaction pattern will make students, be more engaged. Now, what are the options we have here? For example, simply you can ask students to get into pairs. Okay, make a group of 3, 4, sometimes 5. Okay, and you can give a letter to each student and then say all A's work together, all B's work together. Okay, I remember when I was doing CELTA, what I did was I counted the number of students. For example, there were 9 students in the class. So I wanted to divide them into 2 groups, 3 groups, each group 3 students. So I had 3 different colors. So yellow, blue, green, yellow, blue, green, yellow, blue, green. Okay, so yellows. So first you ask students to stand up. Stand up, everyone. this, okay? So if you say stand up, well, it's not that encouraging, you know? So you ask students stand up. So A's, that part of the class, okay? B's in the middle and C's here, okay? So do not say go there, there. So you've got to show with your hands, okay? Uh, well, actually here in Russia, I did something strange, but it worked out well. There were like 9 students in the class, and I asked one of the students, okay, the first student, which was very close to me, and I asked, what's your favorite food? She said borscht. I asked the second one, she said pizza. And the third one said salyanka. Okay. And I named the students borscht, pizza, salyanka, borscht, pizza, salyanka, and the rest. And I asked, students to stand up. It was interesting. I mean, they started laughing and say, "Oh, borscht, okay. Oh, you're salyanka." It was engaging. You can do anything that you like. You can choose a color. You can choose a food. You can, I don't know, give them something. Okay, so it's up to you, but it should be done quickly. Okay. Uh, Next one is work with someone who. So this is another one. Who's not sitting near you. Okay. Remember that if you know your students, I don't really think it's a good idea to say now, because I was observing a class once and the teacher said, now I'm going to change your partners. And everybody was like, oh my God, I don't want to change my seat. So never say what you're planning to do. Okay. I am going to change your partners. This is not a good instruction. Okay. Now, ABC, stand up. There. Okay. If you say, they will complain because, for example, Dasha wants to sit next to Masha, you know. Aliona always wants to sit next to, I don't know, Igor. So this is just a mistake. So stand up and find somebody. For example, find somebody. Of course, you've got to think in advance. Find somebody who's wearing, I don't know, yellow shoes. So find somebody who is having a watch, you know. So you've got to count if students have any thing in common or not. Okay. Uh, Another one is making pairs with no big moves. Simply, work with the student on your left, on your right, in front of you. Okay, that's one of the simplest ways, and no chaos will happen. Then non-random groups. You can ask learners who they would like to work with. But the point is that in some cases, those who are sitting next to each other, they usually say, "I want to work with Dasha," for example. "I want to work with Dima." Okay, so you've got to be very careful with this. Uh, Sometimes it's not a bad idea to give your students a choice. Why not? Would you like to work with this student or that student? Okay, but unfortunately, sometimes there is a student or there are students in the class that other students don't like to talk to them. In some classes it might happen, you might have experienced this. So in this case, avoid this, okay, because that notorious student will be ignored. And altering one variable, so you stand up to do an activity as an example, only one person can look at the text, okay? Or only one person can write the answers. So this is another one. Once I asked, for example, if you have a group of 3 or 4, you can choose a student to be in charge, and then you get ideas in the feedback from that student. So his responsibility, the strong one, of course. Uh, the responsibility is to ask students questions. Okay. And pyramid discussion, as you see here. Any idea what it is? So you start with a paired work, like 2 students. Okay. for example, talking about this inhabited island, okay? So you start with two students. You have to choose three items, okay, that you would take with you. Or if you had to live without electricity, what three items would you miss? So you start with two students, and then you ask another student to join this. So there are three students, and then they share ideas. After that, you ask, for example, another student, a bigger pair or bigger group, four students and five students. But of course, after each activity, you've got to give some useful language, because if they want to do exactly the same thing, that's kind of boring. Okay, so you've got to provide them with some useful language after each change. So these are the ways actually you can group and pair and use group work and pair work, form group work and pair work, I can say. Any other ideas maybe you use in your classes you want to share? Or maybe which one you think is the most interesting?
I liked the second, as I remember, about naming. The first about naming the groups, and the second about find someone who.
Mhm, mhm.
I think it's interesting, but it's difficult to the second one. It's difficult to do quickly. So you have to look at the students and find something similar.
This is actually one of those techniques. I mean, you've got to make you say snap decision. Okay, you've got to make a snap decision on the spot. But you'll be able to do that. I mean, when you're asking students in the beginning of the class, like, "Hi, how are you?" and you can, you know, monitor students. Oh, blue shoes two, yellow three. Okay, yeah, but it's difficult. I imagine. Okay, Tanya, what about you? Which one do you think is the most interesting?
I think all of them were very interesting.
Mhm. Okay, and which one would you like to use in your class next time? For example, if you have any groups.
Maybe number two.
Okay, all right. So, questions?
No,
No,
Are you tired?
no.
No. All right. Good. Great. So, let's take a look at the next one. But before that, I'm gonna give you a break for 2 minutes. Okay. I want you to stand up. I don't know, do whatever you want, drink some water, and come back in 2 minutes. Okay. So see you in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, so are you back? Can you hear me? All right, you can't hear me, I suppose. Can you? Oh, yeah, can you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So here, as you can see, we have six uh, teachers' problems. We're going to analyze these teachers' experience. Uh, First, I want you to take a screenshot of this page, either with your phone or with your laptop, computer, whatever you're using. Take a screenshot.
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
I want you to take a screenshot.
Of this.
Yes, this page.
Okay. Mhm.
Okay. Tanya, done? Okay. Irina, are you there? I still can't hear you. All right. So now I want you to read number 1 to number 6 and match them with A to F. Okay. You have got 4 minutes for that.
Mhm.
Type the answers in the chat box if you want.
Mhm.
can type the answers in the chat box if you're ready. Thank you, Alona. Well, Britannia, you want to share? Oh. Can you check my answers? But for number 3 and number 5, can you tell me the correct answer? What do you think is number 3?
3 is B.
Uh-huh. Okay. And what about number 5?
Mm.
5 is C.
C.
Yes. Okay, good. So, is that clear?
Yes.
This is one of the ways actually of, we will talk about, of course, giving feedback in the future, but this is one of the ways of giving feedback to your students as well. Okay, you don't need to write everything. So you write 3 answers and you ask them to guess the rest. Okay. All right. An interesting thing here is about when you get closer. If your students are kind of shy and they don't really talk that much, do you think it's a good idea to be closer and closer to your students if you can't hear them?
I'm not sure because the student is shy and it might he might be afraid of you.
That's why it's very important to go, further away and just say something louder. I can't hear you. Okay, so that's also a good tip when your students are, speak not loudly or not loud enough. Okay, all right. So, any questions so far?
No.
All right, good. Talking about monitoring, as it's also very important to monitor your students while they're talking together. Uh, we have some tips here that you've got to closely monitor students, but non-intrusively. Okay. If you think that the class is cramped, is small, then you don't really need to be very close to your students because some of those learners don't really like, okay, when the teacher is very close, and as a result, they feel not confident. Okay, you can simply monitor your students sitting on your chair. Okay, and you can have, I don't know, a pen and your notes, write down their mistakes. Okay? So you don't really need to be very close and giving them feedback. And you can see monitor from chair, and very interesting to monitor from behind. If the class is big enough, so you can go behind them. And sometimes you can pretend as if you're not listening to them, but you can have your phone, for example, write down their mistakes, okay, and or maybe a small piece of paper and write down the mistakes they make, and then you can give them feedback. Um, and you don't really need to walk around all the time. Again, not long ago, I was observing a class, and do you think it's a good idea to monitor students when they are listening?
To monitor students when we are listening.
When they are listening.
They are. Yes.
What? Yes or no?
Yes.
Not really.
No.
Why? Because it's very distracting. Okay, they are concentrating on the questions, and you're walking around. Okay, so it doesn't let them concentrate. So when they are listening, just sit, okay, and don't do anything. Okay, as a teacher, some teachers are very active and they want to go around the class interact with students. It's not that needed. You can save your energy. Just sit and write down the mistakes, or especially if they are listening to something, do not monitor them. Or if they are reading, okay, you can, but you know, again, not very closely, okay? Especially for listening, that's not a good idea because it's very distracting.
Mm-hmm.
And as for online classes, I think it's well important to turn off your camera and also sound and move around breakout rooms. For example, if you have a group of I don't know, 10 students, 3, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 2, for example, you can simply turn off your camera and check if they are really talking together in English or in Russian. Okay, with teenagers, unfortunately, or young learners, juniors, uh, when you ask them to go to the breakout room, they start speaking Russian. Okay, so you've got to be very careful and go from one breakout room to another to monitor if they are
Mm-hmm.
really speaking or if they have. And of course, in online classes, no, instruction is very important because if they go to the breakout room and they don't know what to do, it's awkward, you know. So they will, I am Nile, I am Nile. Okay, they keep saying that I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. Okay, so especially for online classes, giving instruction is important. Uh, any questions?
No.
Do you need to stand up all the time
Oh
and
no.
monitor? Okay. Is it important to sit from time to time?
Yes, it's important.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Uh, thank you very much. If you don't have any questions about monitoring, let's take a look at these two whiteboards here and tell me which one you think is better, which one you like more.
I like the second one because it's there are some I can see the structure of the lesson.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly. This first one actually looks. I cannot say that bad, okay, but it's not organized enough. Is what I mean. So you can see that in the second one, new words, have been written on the left. Grammar, this passive structure has been,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and the second one also was taken. Some teachers prefer to write the date on the board as well, which I also think it's okay. So in the beginning of the session, they may write maybe the agenda of what they are going to do. This, this,
Mm-hmm.
this. Well, I don't think that this is a problem. Okay, but it should be clear, you know, and of course pre-planned. You know? So you've got to know you want to teach grammar. Okay, so you should know where to write that. And it should be clear and tidy. Sometimes when, well, during observation, teachers might be under pressure. They may not find no markers, and they keep using the same color, black, 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 black. So nothing has been underlined, nothing has been highlighted, and so on. So uppercase and lowercase. Uh, Let me tell you something interesting that during those demo lessons I saw, they have new teachers from time to time. It's interesting that well, statistically, or better to say, roughly speaking, uh, African teachers tend to write almost everything in capital. Okay, so they
Mm-hmm.
write, for example, the topic of the lesson. For example, present simple, P capital, R capital, E, blah, blah,
Mm-hmm.
blah. And then they want to teach vocab. I noticed that they write the new words in uppercase, like brave, B capital, A, So it's not actually a good idea, especially for lower levels, because they will remember this and they will imitate. So
Mm-hmm.
brave everything capital. Okay, they think that this is something special that they should run. So be careful with uppercase and lowercase, when to use and when to avoid. Okay? And colors, I don't really suggest using well, red that much, but even if you check grammar, sorry, writing, avoid, we'll talk about it actually maybe later in correction. Uh, Avoid using red. It has a negative association, okay, especially
Mm-hmm.
when you want to correct your students on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And in online classes, you can simply use Word. I don't know if you use Word, or you can use share screen.
Mm-hmm.
Simply, there are, of course, lots of other apps you can use to teach, but I think the easiest ones are Word and share your screen.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, all right, so use different colors, especially when you're teaching young learners. It's very important for them. Once I was reading an article, and it was mentioned that whatever you write on the board, the way that you write on the board, students write more or less exactly the same in their notebooks. So
Mm-hmm.
if you write, I don't know, not neatly, or like it's like messy, they will copy exactly the same thing. And you know that
Mm-hmm.
it's very important when you have, notes and you want to read. If it's messy, well, not interesting to read. So be careful with your board next time. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions?
No.
And a couple of more tips I would like to share with you about online classroom management. Uh, I don't know if you work online. Aliam, do you have any online classes?
No, I don't.
Okay, good. Tanya, how about you? Have you got any online classes? If
No, I haven't.
yeah, okay, all right. So if you teach online, well, basically, more or less, if you're talking about giving instruction, it's more or less the same. Okay. Uh, you can, if you want to give instructions, you can, I don't know, highlight. You can ask your students, to share their ideas in the chat box. It's also interesting for them. You've got to anticipate the technical problems, because some of your students might not, especially young learners. This is a problem for young learners, 7, 8, 9. They don't know how to use Zoom. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In language link, of course, we use Zoom or Skype. Some teachers tend to use this platform. But the easiest one and the most common one that we use is Zoom. So, and you've got to make sure that you vary the tasks. If you want to use the same method over and over again, that's kind of boring. There are a lot of interesting apps you can use. One of them is, I used it today, learning apps. So you
Mm-hmm.
order, for example, the presentation stages
Mm-hmm.
from 1 to 6. Learning apps is one of them. Quizlet is the one which is very interesting for learners. I use for my online classes. I don't know if you've ever used Quizlet or not. Kahoot as well, if you want to play games, and you know, uh, several others. You've got to know about the platform, how to use breakout rooms, how to share sounds. Uh, well, I remember when teachers started using Zoom, it was kind of difficult for them to share the sound. Okay, so you've got to master and know how to use Zoom. Uh, you've got to make sure if your students are familiar with technology, they know how to use technology, uh, and of course your face. Again, that's very, very important to be able to communicate or interact with your students seriously. Oh, I can't believe that. Okay. So if you don't show any emotions, your students will feel bored. Like if you want to show that, yes, correct, good, so it's more or less the same as offline. So be ready to use your face a lot. Okay. uh, Great job. Instructions again, as I told you, no difference. As for testing instruction as well, but you can show it on your screen. I think it's much easier because here is not visible. Okay. And pair and groups, we discussed it. We have in Zoom, we have breakout rooms. You can simply ask students to work in breakout rooms. And if you want them to answer questions, you've got to give them some time. Maybe because of the connection, maybe because they need to think. I've noticed over the last 2 months that one of the problems that teachers usually have, maybe because they're being observed, they're under pressure, they don't give students talking, thinking time, sorry. So if you give them an activity, you should give them some time to think. Otherwise, for some students, especially the weak students, it's kind of difficult to come up with something. Okay? So give your students thinking time. If they want to work in pairs, for example, there are 10 questions, 5 questions, 2 minutes to prepare your answers. See? So that's very important, count to 10. Now, and one more tip for your online classes, ask your students to look out of the window once in a while, maybe once at least, okay? Because if you have young learners, if they sit for 90 minutes, they will feel bored. Do you remember I asked you to go and drink water? 4 minutes, okay? Or of course, it's also interesting if I could see a window behind you, okay?
Yes.
You can, ask your students to stand up and look out of the window, okay? Let's do it actually, okay? Let's see what is out of the window, and you should tell me, okay? Let me see myself.
Okay.
Okay. So, what was there? Anything interesting?
No, there are lots of buildings and garages.
So pretty much the same, and the streets are a bit wet.
Ah,
Okay, so
yes, I live in Taganrog, and tomorrow it was well, why tomorrow? In the morning it was raining.
Okay, all right. Yeah, Tanya, did you look out of the window?
Yeah, sure.
Anything interesting?
Nothing, but the weather is sunny.
Okay, it's cloudy. Are you in Rostov, Taganrog? Where are you located now?
St. Petersburg.
One more time.
St. Petersburg.
You're so lucky actually to be in St. Petersburg. Okay, I wish I was in St. Petersburg. Okay, lovely place. Okay, lovely. Okay, so you see that it made a change. So you ask your students to look out of the window to do something for a very short time, 30 seconds, 1 minute, that's it. Okay. To gather students' attention. Any problems, any questions so far?
Can we use total physical response uh, to give them time to relax?
Yes, why not? Why not? Yeah. For example, once I was observing a class, and one of the teachers, after I think it was like after 30 minutes or so, she felt that students were kind of tired. So she asked students to stand up, and she did this activity: head, shoulder, knees and toes, knees and toes. Okay, so this is just a great physical activity. You can give them break for young learners. I mean, okay, uh, go out, drink water, and come back. 1 minute only, 2 minutes. Okay. It's very important. It's very important, even for adults. So The language link, we have classes 3 academic hours, like the one we have. So if they want to sit for 3 academic hours, even if you are the coolest teacher in the world, okay, well, students might feel bored of, not because of your class, because of sitting for too long. That's why you've got to ask them to stand up to do some activities.
Mhm.
All right. Now, are you ready to have some fun?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, we're just gonna review what we have done, especially for instruction. Okay, here, as you can see, we have an activity I'm gonna send you in the chat box. Okay, you can download. Well, Irina can't hear me. I don't know. I'll send Aliona and Tanya. You've got to plan your instructions. Okay, how you will give instructions for one of these activities. Okay, I'll send you one. How you would gather students' attention, what you will include in your instruction. IP is interaction. What does it stand for? I, interaction. P, pattern. Okay, interaction pattern. Timing, how much time, okay, and so on. Word your instructions and check understanding if they understood or not. And you're going to present it now. Okay. I'll give you 5 minutes to look at your each activity that I will send you. And after that, you should present it. Okay.
Mhm. So each activity, right?
Only one, the one I'll send
One.
you now. Okay.
Mhm.
Let me see. Right. Okay. Good. This one is for Aliona. This is yours.
Mhm.
See in the chat box.
Mhm. Yes.
Okay, just a second. And Tanya, this one is for how much time do you have?
5 minutes.
Mhm. Tanya, can you see it?
No, not yet. Is it in the chat?
Let me send you one more time. Not now.
Mm-mm.
Can you check? It's in the chat box. Tanya, can you see that?
No, I can't.
Leona, can you see the chat box? Is there anything there? Number 2?
Yes, I can see 2 pictures, but I can't open.
Okay. So let me share the screen with you and open them. We can do it together then if you can't. This is the first one. Can you see that?
Is it the first one?
Yes.
I'll take a photo, okay?
So, and as for Tanya, you should. Okay. So this is the second one for Tanya. And you see here, you have tell a partner about 8 things you have. Use an adjective or a color. This one is yours, Tanya. For you, Adriana, it's here as well. You can take a look.
Yes, I can see.
It is worth mentioning that this one is from Gateway B1, the one I sent you, Aliona. And this one is English File Elementary. Okay? English File Elementary, and this one is Gateway B1 for teens, this one for adults, just in case. Share your ideas with me if you're ready.
Am I right? You said that to ask, do you understand all the words? It's a bad idea. So how can I check, do they know the words or not?
You can ask concept checking questions. Okay, for example, the word switch off as an example. Okay,
Mhm.
you can say, what is the opposite of switch off?
Oh,
Like this, okay? Or
mhm,
as for remote control, for example, you can ask, for example, how many remote controls do you have at home?
mhm,
Okay, like this. Do we use a remote control for air conditioning?
mhm, mhm.
Like this, okay? If you say, for example, do you, well, let's discuss it later, okay? After you're done.
We can try, I'm not sure.
Okay, good. It's okay. Let's give it a try.
First, I will gather their attention. I will use clapping.
Mhm,
When I think it's better to check if they know all the words or not,
mhm.
or it's better to uh,
You
to
can ask
divide them
them.
into pairs. What is better?
You can firstly, you'd better ask them to read the questions. For example, I don't know, give them time to
Mhm,
read the questions.
mhm,
Okay, so they're done. And after that, you're gonna check. If you say, do you understand all words? And they might say yes, but how can you make
mhm,
sure? Okay, again, this concept checking questions. Something interesting you mentioned. You can also ask if you don't know any words, ask your partners. You two,
mhm,
again with your hands. You should show you two, you two, you two. Don't say partners. Okay, my partner is the one on the right, on the left. So you've got to show with your hands. This is also interesting. Why not? And then what would you do after that? If there is no
mhm.
problem with the meaning, okay? So they know every word.
Then I will divide them into pairs.
Mm-hmm.
When I'll give them instructions, and I will say about the time. For example, you have 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Yes.
after that, I will check understanding. I will ask such questions like, I don't know, how many minutes do you have?
How much time do you have? Okay.
Mhm,
In pairs or in
mhm,
groups, for example. They say in pairs. Okay. So this instruction checking question. Good. How much time do you have in pairs or in groups? Uh, that's it. Good. That's great. Tanya, what about this one? Tell a partner about 8 things. What would you do?
Well, probably it'll be better first to give them time to think. Think about 8 things you have.
Very good. First time. Good. Good idea. What else?
Then tell your partner about these things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, for
Try
example,
to use as more adjectives such as color,
mm-hmm, yes. Uh,
describing these things.
good. Do you
Yeah,
think?
you will have not more than 3 minutes.
Good. Mhm. Okay. And what about the instruction checking questions? How would you check? What questions do you ask to check instructions?
Is the task clear to you? Any questions?
Uh, if you say any questions, for example, for to students, okay, uh, most of the time they say no. So you'd better ask, for example, here I can see how many things should you write? So they say
Mhm.
8. Okay. Should you use an adjective? They say yes. Okay. Should you use a color? They say yes. Okay. How much time do you have? As you said, 3 minutes. Yes. So, and I think it's very, very important to model the first one. If you model the first one, especially for, you can, again, we discussed it, you can ask one of your students to do that, or you yourself. For example, black phone. So that's it. Anything else you want to add?
No.
All right, good. So, any questions so far?
No.
So,
No.
thank you. Let's have a quick review of these things we discussed today. Okay, what is ICQ? Do you remember?
Instruction checking questions.
Okay, good. The answers should be short or long.
Short.
Okay, good. What about instruction? What do you remember about
The
instruction?
instructions should be short.
Yes, this KISS. Okay, keep instructions short and simple. Chesting, remember chesting. Yes. If the instruction is long, what should you do? If your instruction is too long, what should you do?
To break down them.
Very good. Which one first, handout or materials? Sorry, first, which one first, handout or instruction?
Instruction.
Okay, good. What about the board work? Board, what do you remember? Tell me one tip.
Board work must be pre-planned.
Good. Okay. Gathering attention. Two things you remember.
Clapping.
Good, good.
Also, keep it silent.
Bravo. Okay, all right. And sitting arrangement we discussed. Okay, so you see, you can always do such activities as for reflection. Okay, at the end of your class, for example, tell me two things you liked about today's session. Tell me two, three words you remembered, okay, about today's session. And many other questions that you can think of, okay, as for reflection. Now, in your next class, when you teach, you can think about the sitting arrangement. Again, I'm telling you that I'm putting emphasis that you should change the seats from time to time, okay? And instructions, what instructions we will need to give, pair work, group work, and so on. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me about today's session. Nothing?
Oh.
Okay, all right. There are two great books you can read. One of them is by, two of them actually, by Jim Scrivener, okay, Classroom Management Techniques and Learning Teaching. These are very interesting books, and it helps you a lot to manage your class effectively. And if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask me. Here is my email address. You can send me an email if you have any questions, and I'll be there to reply, I hope, as soon as possible. Any questions?
No, I don't have questions. It was interesting, clear. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Tatiana, what about you?
No, any questions? I
Okay.
liked everything. Thank you. It was really interesting.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And have a great day then. And see you, I think, next week. Looking forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Welcome and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.